welcome to the Legends of Boxing show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. The Legends of Boxing show is brought to you by the Retired Boxers Foundation. I'm your host for the Legends show, Mike Goodpaster, and today my guest is one of the top welterweights of the 1970s and early 80s. Please help me welcome Randy Shields to the Grueling Truth. How you doing, Randy?
Hi, Mike. Thanks for having me.
All right, so let's just start at the beginning. When did you first start boxing?
Well, it was in our backyard. My dad was an ex-professional fighter who had this obsession with working out. Started working out made the double garage, an apartment into a gym with the ring outside, and watching him work out, I started to work out and said, after I think it was 8 months of me working out, he said, you either do it serious or get out. Never answered yes or no. I just started working out harder. Then I walked up to him and I said, I want to fight. He got me a fight down in Chino Lake. Under the supervision was, the promoter was Marty Dinkin, who became a
referee.
Besides the referee and also athletic commission of California. And he promoted my first junior fight and refereed my last pro fight.
Now, what was it that really drew you to boxing? What was the thing that gave you that love to fight?
You know what? I can't answer that. I have no idea. I don't know why. I just kept doing it, and all of a sudden I was good, and I just kept doing it. It's not like I had a yearning for it.
Yeah. So were the Olympics ever a goal for you?
It was, but my dad guided my career, good, bad, or indifferent. He had the reins, and he said it was too long to wait for the Olympics. You know, it was an interesting turn of events, what led me into winning the AAU national title against Sugar Ray Leonard. And I was a lightweight, 132 pounds in the amateurs, and I was about 130 pounds. And went to this smoker. Billy Mitchell was one of the trainers and had 3 fighters there. I fought his first fighter and stopped him in the second round. He had a fit saying, I have a guy that'll beat you. And so I fought the next guy who was a middleweight. He was about 156 pounds. I stopped him in the second round. He said, I got a guy that'll beat you. I fought him. He was a heavyweight, about 220 pounds. And I stopped him in the second round. He couldn't touch me. I was too fast. So him and my dad got in a big argument saying, I've got a guy, he said, I got a Black Panther that'll jump from the tree and chop you up. So we said, we'll meet in the Diamond Belt. So we went to the Diamond Belt thinking I won all my fights by KO. He won all his fights by KO. We get to the Olympic Auditorium. He's a junior welterweight. I'm a lightweight. My dad starts yelling at the commissioner. No, we're supposed to fight him. And Billy Mitchell, no, we're supposed to fight him. So our opponents both found out they're fighting us. Since we all won our fights by KO, they both pulled out. So we were both left with no fight. So the athletic commissioner at the time was Joey Olmos. Great guy. He said, well, you can't fight because the weight is too far apart. And so what we did, we signed a paper to release, them of responsibility in case I got hurt. This guy was huge, very big. Claude Durden. Thurman Durden was number 2 in the world, his brother. Claude Durden was all straight knockouts. Had like 28 knockouts, 28 fights. And so I fought him for his title and won. They showered the ring with over $300 in change. And there's a nice article that Goodman wrote about it. Frankie Goodman. He had an article in the local Green Sheet, it was called at the time. And so I said, wow, the fights were much better at junior welterweight. I think I'll stay junior welterweight. So in the next AAU tournament, I went in I weighed in with all my clothes on, and I think I weighed in at 134 pounds. So I fought the 139-pound class and won that. Went to nationals where I fought all three favorites. The first fight, I stopped the guy in, I think it was like 15, 20 seconds. The second guy was a guy from Hawaii, Johnny Sua, I believe. And I hit him with everything but the kitchen sink. Won a unanimous decision. Third fight, I fought John Staggs, all straight knockouts. Don't even remember the fight. The fight was so tough. But I won that by a unanimous decision. I fought the Roosevelt Green in the semifinals, who was the backup man in the 72 Olympics to Ray Seals, Sugar Ray Seals.
Yeah.
So as the backup man, he was the international champion as well. I knocked him out in the second round. Going into the finals, basically from the quarterfinals from John Staggs, I lost even more weight. I was 128 pounds. So I step on the scale, and I'm only 131 pounds. And so, you just made it. And I said, no, I got off the scale, grabbed, said, can I borrow the boots? I borrowed this guy's boots, weighed in 136 pounds, made the weight for junior welterweight, and fought Sugar Ray Leonard. And in that fight, which I think the funniest part that I can remember very well is in the second round. First round was tit for tat. Second round, he sets me up. He hits me with the right hand and basically steps back like I was going to fall down. As he stepped back, I stepped forward. I hit him with the left hook, and his eyes opened up real wide and said, like, basically, I could see him say, like, oh, shit. And I went after him. And I kept the pressure on. Third round, he got tired. I didn't, and I won the fight. And that's basically the way that I've heard on the internet that it's explained. He got tired. I didn't. I won the fight.
Now, was he a guy, when you fought him, that you could tell that there was something there?
He was the defending national champion. He had already won the Golden Gloves national title. He was scouted as being, Sugar Ray Leonard. Everybody loved him. He has more charisma than Muhammad Ali. If he had Muhammad Ali's personality, he probably would have been president.
Yeah.
But Ray Leonard has two sides to him.
Yeah.
He has the Ray Leonard and Sugar Ray Leonard. And the Ray Leonard is very shy. He doesn't want to be in the public. He doesn't like talking to anybody. The Sugar Ray Leonard is very flamboyant and loves talking to everybody. So the two sides, depending on what side. Now, if it was, like I said, if it was like an Ali, who was a great guy, but his own promoter, I'm telling you, he could have been president. Never seen anybody with his charisma anywhere, ever.
Yeah, and he was absolutely a great fighter, and we'll get to your professional fight against him here in a little bit. So you turned pro in 1974. What led to that decision? Was that basically just your dad's call?
It was January 4th, or 6th. January 6th, 1974, at the Olympic Auditorium. One of my main problems my whole life was I had scarlet fever when I was a kid.
Yeah.
stripped my immune system. I got the flu really bad early January, and I'm fighting at the Olympic Auditorium on a Thursday, January 6th, fighting a guy that had already beaten in the amateurs, but he's already touted as one of the best 6-rounders in the business, Victor Abraham, and has a great punch. So I go into the fight sick, and I go to my dad, I'm sick. And he said, well, if you don't fight sick, you'll never fight at all. And that was his comment, and he walked away. I went, well, I guess I'm fighting. So psyched myself up, go into the fight. My first 3 rounds, I went, oh, man, getting tired. So I stepped back basically to get a second wind or to try to take a deep breath. And the cardinal rule in boxing, you never step back with your hands down. Always step to the side or hands up or whatever. I stepped back, he hit me with the right hand. Down I go. First knockdown ever in my life. Sparring or fights, or I had 92 amateur fights with the best in the world, with the champions of Romania, the silver medals from the 72 Olympics, who supposedly beat Sugar Ray Shields. I fought everybody. Mexican national champion, and never been hurt. I wasn't hurt then. It was a flash knockdown. Got knocked down and went. I remember what I was thinking. I went, wow, this is different. So I said, well, never been knocked down before. I don't know what to expect. So I said, I better grab the ropes and help myself up. So I took my right hand to the middle strand and pulled myself out. Went, oh, I'm fine. So the referee comes over to me, and I seem to recollect it was Dick Young. It was one of my favorite referees. And so I said, well, there goes my rest. Boom, dove into him, knocked him down 6 times in not that round, but the next 3 rounds. So the 4th, 5th, and 6th round, knocked him down 6 times. They didn't count one as a knockdown. I drove him in the ropes, kept throwing and pushed him down basically to the canvas, and they help him up, wipe off his glove, and they don't give him a standing 8 count. So I won the fight, unanimous decision, and that was my first fight. My dad said, if you can't eat a gold medal, is why we didn't wait for the 76 Olympics. But then in retrospect, you think, oh, well, the Olympics and blah, blah, blah is, a big deal, and it would help your career.
Yeah, and if you look at guys like Sugar Ray Leonard, Leon Spinks, they kind of were able to eat a gold medal. They got huge contracts coming out of that.
Exactly. But if you looked at it, like I said, in retrospect, if you look at it, as popular as Sugar Ray Leonard was, to get a decision on the East Coast is very hard. He got it the first time. Now, in the other divisions, I probably could have walked away with it. I sparred with the lightweight gold medalist.
Howard Davis?
Howard Davis. His father stopped it in about 30 seconds. He said, no, you're too strong. I said, well, I'm lighter than he is. He said, I don't care, you're too strong. So I had to spar with somebody else. That was when we were touring in 73, because his father went along with us with his violin case. And I've always liked Davis, good guy, but was not a strong fighter. So if you think about it, to beat Sugar Ray Leonard on the East Coast, if it's close, it's going to go to him.
Even if it's not close, it might go to him, Randy.
Yes, and that's just a lot. I'm telling you, never seen anybody with the charisma. He can go anywhere. And here's a story that I've told a couple times, but very few people know it. We're in Italy on tour. We're fighting the Italian team. We're supposed to fight in Rome, and they put us in this town. I said, oh, where are we going? And they said, oh, we're just going a little bit out of town. We're going to stay there. Okay, going. Half hour, 2 hours later, we get off the freeway, going up this hill, which was a road made for a Fiat, not an extra long bus. And everybody on the bus is screaming because we're literally almost going off the cliff. We get to this very small town, Rockmafina, town square, the whole bit, and they put us in this convent. And we're walking around, the town trying to figure everything out. They build a ring inside the town square. Cut this story short, they bring in Sugar Ray Leonard for an extra fight. And everybody was basically surprised. Hey, Ray, And so we all go for this walk. We're walking down this path, just trying to, just one of our days, I think it's the day before the fight. And we come to this bluff with statue of Jesus overlooking, it's just like the one in Rio.
Yeah.
Overlooking the nobody could see it. I mean, it was just in orchards, hundreds of orchards. All you see is countryside down there. We start to walk back. We hear this singing like a Elvis Presley or Frank Sinatra movie. And we see about 20 kids between the ages of like 7 and 10. Holding the hands, 2 were holding the hands of the monk, and they were all singing the song. They all see us and start yelling in Italian, come running over to us. Now there's everybody on the team from what would it be, flyweight to heavyweight on the team, and plus an extra Sugar Ray Leonard. We're all there. Now, all the gold medalists from the 76th Olympics are there, including Sugar Ray Leonard and myself. All the kids are all around us. They all slowly leave each one of us, Howard Davis and all of them. And they all end up around who? Around Sugar Ray Leonard. Every single one of them trying to get to him. They have no idea who he is. Nobody else knows who he is, but they all gravitate to him. We all started to walk away. He's looking at us, hey, guys, help. We're going, see ya. And the 20 or so kids, every single one of them was around him, trying to touch him and pull at him. Why is that? His charisma. Never seen anything like it with anybody. With Ali, I've had lunch with Ali. Nobody comes up to him. Everybody goes up to Ray Leonard. That's something about him that a lot of people don't know. His charisma was just through the roof.
Yeah, I mean, he basically took over when Ali was done to keep boxing where it was in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, he kept it alive. I mean, Ali and Howard Cosell mainly because of his, he was pretty flamboyant himself and had a lot of controversy, mainly with Ali, and he made Ali what he is.
Well, I think also with Ali, the thing that made him what he was just the circumstances of the political times, and he took a stance that wasn't popular at the start, but by the time you look back at it, you realize he was right, and we probably shouldn't have been there.
No, exactly. There's no doubt about that. But because of where we were in our society, including my dad, like I loved Joe Frazier.
Yeah.
Joe Frazier was down to earth and just did his job. Didn't open his mouth. Me being a kid and listening to my dad, nobody could really stand Ali. We wanted Joe Frazier to win. But as I got older, and you develop your own thoughts and mind, and I got to know Ali, I loved him. No better guy to be around than him. in public, when the lights were on, when the cameras are there, he became very outspoken. But as a person, you can't find anybody better.
Yeah, we had Reggie Johnson on. You remember the middleweight, light heavyweight back
Yes, I
mid
do.
late
Yes.
90s. But Reggie told a story about going to the arena and he's got a fight and he got there a little early and he was there with his little daughter and his wife was supposed to meet him there and wasn't there yet. And Muhammad Ali came back in the dressing room to meet him and found out that he was looking for somebody to watch his daughter and actually took Reggie's daughter out to ringside, sat her on his lap until Reggie's wife got there.
Yep, I have seen him to where people are rushing him in because he's late, and a kid wants his autograph. He'll stop. No, go right back to the kids and take care of them first. He was like that. Didn't matter if they were white, black, Mexican. Didn't matter if they were kids.
Yeah,
And
the problem with
respected him for
boxing
that.
today is now it seems like your superstars are just interested in how much money they can make.
Yeah, there's not too many Alis around, and that's
No.
that's
I
a
mean,
sad
the guys
thing.
like Dempsey, Lewis, Ali, and Leonard, they're few and far between, and that's why, if you look at after Lewis, boxing kind of died out until you got Ali. So hopefully somebody will appear in the next decade that can bring it back to prominence. The thing that really struck me when I looked at your record was the fact that you won your first 27-28 fights in a row before you lost to Vicente Majares in 1975. But that's the thing. In less than 2 years, you had like 28 to 30 fights.
I had 18 pro fights, 13 were main events in my first year. And then I started to slow up. Yeah, in the first couple of years, it was, 28-0. I broke my hand in the first round. Vicente Saldivar is his name.
I said Majares on
And-
BoxRec. BoxRec's never wrong. I guess it is.
Well, you kind of remember those.
Oh, I believe
losses
you
more
over
than you do the
BoxRec.
wins.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, Vicente Saldivar was a tricky little Mexican fighter. And I went, this stupid little Mexican. I said, boom, and I hit him with the right hand. He ducked his head. My hand didn't quite reach him. My hand opened up and crunch right in the first round. First punch broke my hand. And it's never been the same since. I still really have to get it fixed. I've been thinking about having surgery soon. So then goes into the rematch. In the sixth round, I get butted. I mean, I really didn't even know where I was. I kept throwing with a broken hand, like shocks going down to my toe. I was like disoriented. I get butted. They stop it on a cut, so really should have been stopped on a TKO, and it should have been called a draw. But I was, like I said, so out of it. My dad never called anything, so got my first loss, which should have been a technical draw. Go into the rematch, and go into the rematch. Does it say a date there? When it was how far apart the fights were?
Yeah, they
Wasn't
were like
that part?
it's about 3 months apart.
Yeah, it was. I think barely 3 months, and 6 months, 6 weeks to recuperate from a break, and then you say another couple of weeks to where, you start training again, then get in shape. Never stopped. My dad put a big glove on me, wrapped foam around the glove, so I had this huge, I would say a 30-ounce glove on my right hand to where I wouldn't hurt it.
Yeah.
So I trained with that. Basically, was within a month I was already in full workout. I was already still running, never let up on my running. Went into the fight and I said, but my hand is still hurt. And he said, well, you have to fight while the public still wants to see the fight. Because he was always going to the promoters, you got to fight while it's hot. And which is, very true. but not 3 months after breaking your hand.
Yeah.
So they shot my hand up, cortisone and Morocane. And Morocaine's like Novocaine, but it's a 24-hour deader. And went into the fight, and very close fight. We thought we won. They gave the decision to him. After the fight, me and my dad are walking towards, down the back hallways of the Olympic Auditorium towards the big door. And Eileen Eaton and Don Chargan, and there was somebody else there. I don't remember who it was. Walk up, and we stop in front of him. Eileen Eaton says, quote, "Sorry we had to do that, but we didn't want to have to rebuild the Olympic again." Because they had just rebuilt it from another riot.
Yeah.
So if I would have won the fight, they would have rioted and torn down the Olympic again. They said they can't afford that, so they didn't want to do it again. So basically, he had the judges basically give Vincente Saldivar the fight. So that was my second loss. Then going into my first fight after the loss was Ray Lampkin up in Portland, Oregon. Do you remember Ray Lampkin?
Yeah, I remember Ray. He was the guy that Duran knocked out in the 14th round. When they interviewed Duran after the fight, he said he wished he would have killed him or something.
It was something like that. Yeah, he lost every round.
I remember that Duran said something completely messed up with it. Yeah, but I remember Ray. He was a good fighter, good lightweight. Very
good fighter. And he won every round of the fight. He was tearing Duran apart. But they fought in Panama during the summer, when the humidity was way up. Duran, is used to that type of environment. And Ray Lampkin, coming from Portland, Oregon, wasn't used to the humidity and started getting very tired.
Yeah.
So in the 14th round, he was shot. Got hit with the left hook. Boom, down he went. Fight's over. So my daughter found me this fight, which I didn't know existed. Found me the fight of me and Ray Lampkin. And we go into the fight. He had 6 fights after Duran and won every fight. If he beat me, then they were going to consider him for a rematch with Duran. And I was either the third or fourth round that I knocked him out and put him in the hospital. And I still almost feel guilty about that fight, but a fight's a fight. So that was you can't say comeback, but my next fight after my loss. And
now those 2 losses, though, real quick, those 2 losses, what kind of effect did they have on you after that? Did you learn anything from it? What did you take away from the 2 losses?
Nothing.
Nothing?
You just keep going.
Well, I kind of thought that because there was extenuating circumstances with those 2 losses. And then in October of 1977, you fought Pete Ranzani, which was a technical draw again. You want to talk to us a little bit about your 2 fights?
Yeah, probably the worst fighter in the top 10 I ever fought. He's lucky he was ever in the top 10. And it showed when he fought Cuevas and got knocked out, in the 3rd or 4th round?
Yeah.
It showed there how untalented he was. So I go into this fight, basically I felt good. Actually, I wasn't sick, I wasn't hurt, ready to go. I'm actually beating him half to death. His face looked like a strawberry. And I'm in there just countering and throwing like crazy. I hit him, he goes forward, butts me, wide open. My eye went wide open. They stopped the fight in the 4th round. They took probably 10 minutes, at least 10 minutes, to give the decision as a technical draw. Because, You have to go to the 4th round. What do we do?
Yeah.
Because he's lost all 4 rounds. And then it goes into the press conference afterwards. He said, "Oh, I hit him with the left hook." He said I told him it was a headbutt. And so after the interview, he goes, "Randy, I'm sorry, but my manager made me say that I hit you with a left hook. He made me say it." And I just looked at him like, "You chicken shit," walked away. Going into the rematch, it was in winter. Well, first, going into the rematch, I get bit by a dog. And on my right arm, my dad's guard dog. And there was no blood. See the doctor, and he says, "You can't even walk fast." He said, "You have to cancel the fight, let alone work out." So couldn't work out, couldn't do anything, so we had to cancel the fight. Healed, get in shape. I was feeling good then, but then winter hits and I get sick. My dad says again, if you never, you can't fight sick, you'll never fight at all. So I go into the fight. Sicker than a dog. In the 9th round, I'm basically still winning the fight. Can hardly throw a punch, but I'm still winning. I twist my ankle in the 9th round. Step back, I twist my right ankle, I go down. Joe Goosen is working the corner with my dad, how he got his start in boxing, and he flies over the bottom rope with a roll of tape and tapes my ankle. Have you ever seen that in a fight?
No, I haven't.
No. He jumps in, does it, gets away with it. I don't know how he got away with it, but it's illegal. And he taped my ankle up and around, rips it, and gets out, like within seconds. They help me up. I just stand there, kind of like favoring my right leg. And I waved to him, "Come on, let's go." Take my right hand, I wave to him. So he comes at me, I just stand there. We start slugging it out, and I'm not moving. I can't move. Evens out the fight in the 11th round. He butts me again, and he wins the fight. He stopped it on a cut.
Yeah, because I've never seen those fights, and I've always wanted to see them because I always wondered how you lost to Pete Ranzani because I thought you were by far the superior fighter. So I think that answers my question.
Well, if I have to say anything about any fighter, only one other fight. Like I said, the worst fighter I've ever fought. There's no way. I don't like to say I could beat anybody. I could basically, if I just stand back and watch him, I should bitch slap him from here to eternity.
That's kind of why I always wondered that. But then in August, you fought what I think was a true legend, Wilfred Benitez, in 1978, Madison Square Garden. You want to talk to us a little bit about that fight?
Well, when people say that, oh, you're sick, this, or you're hurt, that, or whatever, one of the most important things besides being in shape, which I was always in shape, is your mental capacity to fight. And if you're not mentally there, you might as well just throw in the towel. So the girlfriend that I had at the time was just conned me into everything. When you talk about stupid fighters and get involved with these women and whatever, this is one of those girls.
Yeah.
She's actually ended up in prison afterwards for doing the same thing, and to other people that wasn't a boyfriend or whatever, just stealing. And I had creditors coming after me. She got a hold of, we moved in together. we got to have the same checking account and blah, 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 to feel like a relationship and whatever she was saying at the time.
Yeah.
So I get a joint checking account. She strips everything out of it, writes 26 checks that bounced. I said, stop writing. What do you do? I took everything away. She found them again and still wrote 2 more. So at the time it was a lot of money. It was over $26,000 they were trying to collect, which I didn't have 2 dimes to rub together anymore because she's stole everything from me. So I had creditors coming after me in the fight. And I'm going, why should I fight? I'm going to fight for nothing. All the creditors are going to take all the money. I didn't want to fight. Going into the fight, they had a riot before the fight. Actually, Benitez had to go out and calm the crowd down before the fight because they just were crazy. All the Pan Americans there, or where is he from?
Yeah, Puerto
Panama,
Rico.
it's Puerto Ricans, or the Puerto Ricans are big in New York. And so I go into the fight, and Joe Goosen actually called me about 2 months ago. Said, Randy, I watched that fight. Basically it was tit for tat. You actually had the edge on him before you stopped. I said, yeah, I just, he hit me with an uppercut at the end, but I wasn't hurt. And I saw a shadow coming at me. Instead of taking the punch, I took a knee.
Yeah.
Which I would never do under normal circumstances. And I went back to the corner, and no fighter ever wants to admit this, but I said, I don't want to fight anymore. My dad looked at me and said, he took a deep breath, went and kind of paused for a second and said, okay. And he stopped the fight. So that's what happened in that fight. And it's one of the fights that you wish you could go back in time.
Yeah.
But when your mind's not there, it's not there.
Yeah.
And yes, I would have loved to have had a rematch with him, but things couldn't happen. But have you heard about Rafael Benitez lately?
Yeah, I know. It's a shame.
Yeah, he's not doing well, and I don't like to see that. And
no. And he was a great fighter. He beat Cervantes. I don't think he beat Palomino, but he got the decision. Went 15 rounds with Leonard, got stopped. I mean, he was a hell of a fighter. I hate to see that happen to anybody, though.
Yes. And was he a nice guy to me? Yes, he was. And I've had several friends that have been suffering from that and have died from it. And it's not a good thing. I mean, I was with Mike Quarry in his last days. Jerry Quarry, who died at 53. Mike Quarry died at 54, a month after his birthday.
Didn't Bobby have
Bobby
Chacon too? Bobby Quarry?
Yeah, yes. Yeah, Robert Quarry is suffering from it, but I trained him for one fight. I don't like training fighters. I like going in and showing them little tricks of what to do, how to beat people, but Bobby said it was the best condition. Well, Wilma did. Wilma is Jerry's youngest sister. And she told me that, Bobby said it's the best shape he's ever been in, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But he didn't want to train. He was living off of his brother's name.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Now,
but he could fight a little bit, but that was it.
Yeah. A few minutes, or actually 6 weeks later, you fought Sugar Ray Leonard. From what I remember that fight, I mean, you gave Leonard trouble in that fight, and I think he even mentioned it after how tough you were. What was your mindset going into that fight since you had beaten him 5 years earlier, even though it was the amateurs?
Well, it was, a short time after. What would you say was within 2 months? It was in July.
It was 6 weeks. I mean, you fought Benitez in like late August, and you were fighting Leonard at the start of October.
Yeah. Well, the story, basically, the truth of the matter is that he saw the opportunity to beat me after losing to me. Now's the time to get it. And he was right. It was. I even went to a friend of mine, Dr. Mark Sellner. Mark and Adam Sellner are well-known podiatrists here in L.A., semi-retired, both of them. And he was at the Leonard fight, Mark Sellner was. And he goes, Randy, I have this friend of mine. He wants to hypnotize you and get your mind back to where it belongs. So I went to him 3 or 4 times. Whether it worked or not, I can't tell you. I have no idea. But it couldn't hurt, is my philosophy on it, you know. Anything you can do to get your mind back where it should be. So I'm laying there on the couch, and he's talking me through all this rigmarole, and I'm laying there going, okay, well, am I supposed to be asleep or not be asleep? Is this supposed to go in my subconscious or conscious? So I'm just laying there taking it all in and talking to him basically with my eyes closed. But I said, I've seen this before on TV and whatever, and people go out and they don't know what they're doing. And I said, I don't feel anything. But I still went through with it. So the bottom line is I went through with it. I went into the fight. And mentally, I really wasn't there. But physically, I was. So I got inside him and threw a lot of punches. He tried to hold and pull me down. And I just kept, and I was actually throwing uppercuts, left and right uppercuts to the body. He was just pushing me down. And what I hated most about the fight, I wish I could remember the referee's name. I would like to slap him. I was thinking, you know what? If I could hit any referee, besides the Cuevas fight, talking about doing everything in favor of the champion.
I think the referee was Tom Kelly, wasn't it?
I don't know.
I think it was, because I actually watched that fight last night. I thought you did pretty well against Leonard, actually. And I do think the referee held you back a lot.
To say the least. And did you see what happened in the 9th round?
Yeah, I saw the whole thing, and he had a hard time dealing with you. There was no doubt your style gave him trouble. Yeah, well, it's basically because I just out-toughed him, and he didn't expect that. Now, if you really look at it, there was 4 rounds. Now, the rounds he won, decisive in my mind. Yeah. He won hands down. There was 6 rounds, very questionable. Most people gave it to me, and maybe 1 even. But the majority of people that have seen it said, yeah, you should have won the fight. He came back in his book, which whatever that was called, and said, yeah, he got a biased decision. I didn't read the book, but I was told. Yeah. But then again, Ray Leonard in public has said, no, I didn't. I should have won. I won that fight, and then he in the book, The Tell All, he says, really, it was a biased decision, which basically it was. But the referee getting hit in the 9th round, I stepped back. It felt like it was an eternity in the ring. It felt like, 15, 20 seconds go by, when in actuality it was probably about 3 or 4 seconds. Yeah, and but it felt Leonard like a lifetime. Hit the ref, so it looked like the ref would have been on your side after that. No, is what happened is, which I don't know that you caught this, but he was hit with a left hook, because on the break, Leonard kept trying to hit me on the break. Yeah. And luckily for me, I'm good defensively.
and he had a hard time hitting me. Actually, in person, face to face, he said, "I didn't know I ever hit you." I said, "Yeah, the hardest I was ever hit was in the second round. Was the hardest I've ever been hit." And then he followed up with like 8 punches and missed all 8. But that one punch with the right hand, because it's telegraphed so much, just that right hand, I could see it coming a mile away. Once he hit me with it, I could see it every time it came. So he hits the referee. I'm sorry, I said left hook with the right hand. He hits the referee. He splits his eye open beneath the eye. So he's got about, 1.5 inch gash under his eye. Staggers back, grabs the ropes to hold himself from falling down. So it didn't knock him out. And, or was it it was a left hook, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a left
The right
hook.
hand it was a left hook that hit the referee, but it was the right hand that hit me in the second round. So the left hook hits him. He staggers back, grabs the ropes, pulls himself up, and I step back, he steps back. We look at each other like, what in the HBO are we supposed to do now? Hey, how often does the referee basically almost get knocked out?
Yeah.
So we look at each other. We look at the referee. He staggers up. It felt like it was like 20 seconds. When, like I said, it was like 3 seconds. He staggers up and motions for us to keep fighting. I went, yeah, okay. And I think we tapped gloves and then started fighting again. And between the 9th and the 10th round, they switched referees. It was a different referee in the 10th round.
Yeah, they switched. I think they replaced him with a judge, actually.
Yeah, well, most referees would become a judge.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, one of the
fights.
guys that was a judge, they put up in there.
Right. So, and I've never seen that in a fight either.
No.
Never seen that happen. So, other than that, yeah, it was a good fight. And he says, now here's an interesting, comment that I'll say. It is a fact. Now, on that right hand, same right hand he hit Tommy Hearns with, stopped him, in the 14th round?
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay, same right hand. Now, I was the color commentator on that fight. And Hearns was winning that fight.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, only my opinion, what I saw is Leonard did not want to fight. He was done. He was not done with the fight per se, but done with his career. He had fought enough. He was tired of fighting. He didn't want to fight anymore. That was my opinion. I didn't say it, but being there ringside, retrospect, that's what I felt.
Well, so if
He
you
didn't want
look
to
at his
fight
career, though, from the start of his career, they had him fighting contenders. So it wasn't like he was taking easy fights, and then you get to 2 fights with Duran, the fight with you, the fight with Hearns, the fight with Benitez. So I agree with you. I think by the time you got to 1982, who was it he fought? Was it Bruce Finch, where they found out he had the detached retina, and then he basically took off 5 years?
Here's my thoughts on that as well. You don't get a detached retina from the Tommy Hearns fight, which he said, and then quit years later. Doesn't happen. You can't fight with a detached retina. So his excuse for getting out of the Hagler fight was, I have a detached retina. If he would have quit, everybody would have called him chicken.
Yeah.
Okay? He needed an excuse to get out of boxing. And his excuse was, I have a detached retina. If I fight, I could go blind. Oh, no, you better quit. No. Oh. Everybody was begging him to quit. But did it happen that way? No. I think it was an excuse. He didn't want to fight. It wasn't, mentally.
So do you think he didn't want to fight Hagler, or do you think he was
Yes.
just mentally wore out?
Both.
Yeah.
Basically, it was at the time where he did not want to fight Hagler. Hagler was just too strong.
Oh yeah. I mean, 1982. I don't even think that's a competitive fight.
Okay, now a lot of people have the misconceptions of what happened in the Duran fight as well. What happened in the Duran fight is, if you remember correctly, everybody's basically saying that same thing they said with Oscar De La Hoya. Oh, he's not tough.
Yeah.
He's boxing. He's doing all this stuff. He's not a tough guy. Leonard went in to prove that he was tough. He said, I could fight his fight and beat him. And he went in and fought Duran's fight and lost the fight.
Yeah, but the thing is about Leonard is this. That's the fight where he totally got my respect, was the fact that he could do that. And, I mean, that was a close fight.
Yes, it was. And I thought basically he threw more punches and landed more punches than Duran, but it was Duran's fight. He fought Duran's fight. He caved in and fought his fight.
Yeah.
They gave it to him. Going into the rematch is what everybody's misconception is Duran goes into the fight. He's tried to make excuses for it. This is the no Moss fight. And basically, Duran goes into the fight, which has never happened in the history of boxing, prepaid 3 days before the fight.
Yeah.
The check is cleared in the bank 3 days before the fight. $6 million. Okay? So he goes into the fight already prepaid. He's already announced his retirement. Duran goes into the fight with another head-to-head, mano-a-mano fight. That's what he wants.
Yeah.
Show he's the toughest. Leonard doesn't fight his fight. He fights his fight. Now, there was a 2 or 3 page article, 4 page, whatever it was, that where I say if Leonard fights his fight, it won't even be a contest. Won't even be a fight. Second, third round, was it third round he quit?
No, he quit in the 8th round.
Something like that? 8th round, okay. So, might as well been the third round.
Yeah, he might
Leonard
as well
just
not even started the fight.
Yeah. Leonard goes side to side, back and forth, using his speed, not even a fight. Just like I said it would be. Duran, not fighting his fight, he says, basically, F you. I'm not fighting this fight. You're not fighting my fight? I don't need it. Been prepaid. I'm already retired. See you later. Duran, not being the smartest tack or the sharpest tack in the box, says, I'm not fighting. You're not fighting my fight. And calls it quits. He's made up tons of excuses of why. Worst decision he's ever made.
Yeah.
And yet it was that. You're not fighting my fight, I'm not fighting. That's what happened.
Yeah. And then we talk about you had the back-to-back losses. You get a win after that. Then you get a shot at the title against Pepino Cuevas. I think that was in Chicago. You want to talk about the Cuevas fight? Because that's a fight, when I watch it, I actually think you won that fight.
Well, there's actually no doubt about that. I mean, no matter who's watched the fight, it was the WC that forced a rematch. Going into the rematch is where my dad still made the stupid mistake of we go into a pre-fight. So going into the fight, I'm 138 pounds. You know, like I was light going into the AAU, I wasn't a welterweight, but I beat Jose Palacios, who was like number 6th, 5th, 4th, whatever in the world. And of course, I eat a couple meals, weigh in with little clothes, and I make the weigh-in. So I go over 140. You have to be between 140 and 147. I'm 138. Eat the meals before you go to the bathroom. I don't have to lose weight. So I beat him easy, like basically 10 out of 10 rounds. Go into the Cuevas fight. And I'm weigh in at 142.5. Ate 2.5 meals. Weigh in, hit the bathroom, take a big dump, I lose the weight. So I'm under 140, 138 going into the fight. And I never ate that much the afternoon of the fight. I'd eat in the morning and snack in the afternoon, then I would fight. So I was 138 going into the fight. He's like 150 something in the upper 50s. And the first round, they said it's not going to go over 2 rounds. Why anybody could ever say that? I've never been hurt. And they think they're going to knock me out. So, second round, I start landing a few shots here and there, all right hands in the first round. Second round, they say from the second round to the 11th round, I've won every round. Fourth round, I get cut. I believe it was over the left eye. And he starts coming after me. He runs. Now, you may have watched the fight, but a lot of people don't see this. In the fourth round, you'll see me I'm backing up. I stop, just throw a right hand. Boom. He walks right into it. Yeah. Wasn't hard. It was just thrown right. And it staggers him. And I step in, throw another right hand to take him out. First right hand he ever ducked was that one. So, go back to boxing on him. I didn't jump on him. If I was a Sugar Ray Leonard, to where the best killer instinct I've ever seen in any fight, it was Ray.
Yeah.
If I had that killer instinct like he had, Cuevas would have been out in the fourth round. But I didn't. I kept boxing. Sixth round was good. All the rounds I had won. 12th was iffy. Could have gone either way. 13th could have gone either way. I think I won the 14th. 15th, it was what the announcer says, whoever wins this round will win the fight. Of course, they were Cuevas's, color band and announcer. Yeah. It was, Hispanic TV station. So everybody gave me the 15th round, and actually by the end of the 15th round, I was done. I had enough. And I felt just everything just sort of drank, I guess because I knew it was the 15th round. And they give, Don King was there ringside, tells Joe Goosen, well, we have a new world champion. Gets up and walks out. From what I understand, he was at the door when they announced the decision. He shakes his head and walks out. So, yeah, they say, and then they forced a rematch, WBC. Going into the rematch, I fight El Gato Adana. And so he was the Mexican national champion. And he throws this. Now, second round I almost drop him. Hit him with a left hook. He goes in the ropes. I jump on him. Doesn't go out. Comes back. Fourth round. Was it the fourth round? He throws this, or sixth round. He throws this haymaker of a right hand. Just a bolo punch. Over the head, round punch. And I look at it like, what in the heck is that? Watch it. And I sort of like tilt my head a little bit to get out of the way. It just glances doesn't even knock my head back. Glances over my right eye and splits it wide open. It's like the tape on the gloves or whatever. Can't say the laces. The laces are all taped up. So it was the tape. It felt like it was a razor blade, which we know it wasn't. But it just sliced it open. Started bleeding like crazy, and my dad stopped the bleeding. And what happened it was the ninth round. I'm sorry, it was the ninth round because the referee was going to stop the fight. And I know it was cut twice over both eyes. Can't remember which one was which. But in the ninth round, they're going to stop the fight. And it was Lou Filippo, who was an ex-fighter, stops the fight and takes me over to the doctor. Dr. Swartz, Bernard Swartz, was the boxing doctor at the time. He goes, oh, Lou, I think we're going to have to stop it. I said, Doc, don't stop this. I'm winning the fight. And he goes, he looks at Lou Filippo and he goes, well, if it gets any worse, if they can't, I said, give my dad a chance to stop the bleeding. He goes to Lou and he goes, okay, if they can't stop the bleeds anymore, go ahead and stop the fight. So they let the fight continue. My dad stops the bleeding in both eyes, and I win the fight. Now, I had a lot of scar tissue from fights and, past fights. So it opened very easily.
Yeah.
So before the ring announcer was the young ring announcer who was very good, but he died of brain cancer. I don't remember his name. He walks up to me and he goes, Randy, you won the fight, but leave before I announce the decision. I said, you don't have to ask me twice. I shoot out of the ring. As they're getting out of the ring, he doesn't wait. I'm getting out of the ring. They announce that I won the fight by unanimous. Did it real quick by unanimous decision. The crowd goes crazy. I start getting hit left and right. Now, my dad, like in every dramatic fight afterwards, it was always a riot. My dad would stay and fight everybody. Joe Goosen, was trying to get me out of the, through the aisle. Friends, Danny Goosen, who just passed away, was a year before last.
Yeah.
He was a promoter. This is how he got involved with boxing. Comes up to me with this guy named Ralph Garrett, who was a stuntman, and they grab me and start. And I'm not walking because there was so much beer and everything else they were throwing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Was hitting me. I was sliding. So I was like skiing. I had all of Ralph Garrett's belt buckle. Danny and Joe are each side of me. And basically I'm just sliding all the way back to the dressing room. They get to the dressing room curtain, not the dressing room, but the curtain that goes in underneath the stage of the sports arena. I don't know if you've ever been in the sports arena, but it's the curtains that go underneath the sports arena. There was 150 cops back there waiting for a riot. They didn't call them out. They said, oh, well, nobody told us to go out. So I'm standing there. They wouldn't let them through because Ralph Garrett and Danny Goosen didn't have passes. So they wouldn't let him through. So they stop him. 1001, 1002, 1003. Boom, I get hit. Now, they say it was if you read our articles, it was a chair from the balcony, a metal chair, split open my head. But what happened is right when I was standing there, somebody cut me with their hand, not a fist, but a cup, and cut my ear and blew out my eardrum. Then I get hit with what it was an industrial mop, which was 1.5 to 2 inches in diameter over my head, broke it in half. So it splits open my head. I hit the ground. Ralph Garrett and Danny Goosen, Joe Goosen, all picked me up and rammed the gate. They're standing there like, well, sorry, as all these cops that I saw back there just waiting to get called into action. And I'm bleeding from both eyes, bleeding from my ear, gushing from my head. And they get me to the restroom. I'm fine, Of course, I was, curled up because of my head. So that's what lost me on the rematch going into the Cuevas fight.
Yeah, because you only fought twice during 1980, and you had to take, 7 or 8 months off after that fight?
Well, this is why. Now, I told my dad I didn't want to take that fight. I said, why do I have to take the fight? Well, because that's what they do to build a fight. I said, so what? I've already got the rematch. They're forcing a rematch. Why do I have to fight? I don't want to fight. My dad talked me into everything, so I took the fight. And he was talked into it by, they called him the big man, Harry Kabikoff. was promoting the fight. He was the other promoter. And so I took the fight. So because of that, I lost the fight. I went to Mexico City, and, always plagues me to this, haunts me more or less, that I feel bad that I don't remember the doctor's name. But Don Chargan and everybody says this is what the doctor that takes care of all the fighters, champion this, champion that. They all go to him to have their eyes done. The most amazing surgery I've ever had. I was in and out in 45 minutes. I looked, of course, it's the worst place I've ever been to. Thought I was going to die. I was going on the operating table going, I can run. I can still get out of here. When I laid on the table, it was so dirty. And this guy was, the doctor, was the chief of police, the mayor, and the head surgeon of this boys' town in Mexico. That's where he did all the surgeries. Most amazing surgery. I walked in, I looked at the clock. I walked out, it was 45 minutes later. He was started and finished both eyes. Did surgery on both eyes in 45 minutes. And I was walking out. Hardly ever swelled. They've never reopened, ever, after that. So that's why I took 7 or 8 months off.
Yeah, and you took those 2 fights, and then you got another title shot against Thomas Hearns. I think his second defense of the WBA World Welterweight title. It was 6 months before he ended up fighting Leonard. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about that fight? I think it was in Arizona.
It was in Phoenix. And it was in, it was August 1981, and hot, which way I liked it. And I go into the fight probably the best condition I've ever been for any fight. I trained my ass off. But it was when Joe Goosen was really not really into the fight business yet. And I was begging him, Joe, come over and hold the mitts for me. All I was doing was hitting the bags. So 8 days before the fight, he comes over, and I go at it. For the first round, now this is going to sound like most people don't do this, but my dad's out doing yard work and whatever, not paying attention, and I'm working my ass off. I start for the first round throwing as hard as I can, to the 21st round throwing as hard as I can, all out. In the 22nd round, I throw a hard left hook. Joe goes, his hand, because I threw it too hard. It was his shoulder, his elbow, I think it was. So I wound up and I threw an extra hard left hook. Wham! And I snapped it real hard, and all of a sudden there was a pop, this boom. And I stepped back, and he goes, "What was that?" And I said, "I don't know. It feels weird." So next morning, I couldn't lift my arm. I tore the rotor cuff on my left arm 8 days before the fight. So, going into the fight, it was 3 days before the fight. I was feeling it was sore from the earlier workouts.
Yeah.
So I sparred with Steve Moyer. That was the only name I can remember. It was 3 top contenders. Steve Moyer was Denny Moyer's, I think, nephew.
Yeah.
Denny Moyer was the world champion.
Yeah.
At one light middleweight champion, who I sparred with a lot in my early career when I was fighting in Portland. And I get through, and I saw 3 days before the fight, I had 3 guys waiting for me to spar. Denny Moyer, Steve Moyer was one of them. And they're going, come on, let's go. I said, I'm waiting on my dad. My left arm was killing me. So he shoots me up, and I go into the workout where, you know what, any normal person would say, just rest. Rest your shoulder. It's only 3 days before the fight. You're in the best shape of your life. So the next day before the fight, there was actually 2, but it was the 3rd day before. Day before the fight, I couldn't lift my arm. And going into the fight, my doctor, Dr. Richard Sisson, who is one of the best doctors I ever had, shoots my arm up. I said, it's still sore. Keep shooting, keep shooting. 16.5 cc's of Morphine and cortisone later, it's still sore. I can lift it, but I don't even know I'm lifting it. But I can get it to where I can move it. This was about 4 hours before the fight in the hotel room in Scottsdale. So we go to the fight a couple hours before the fight, and yeah, I can move it, I can throw it, I'm warming up. But I got to tell myself to throw it every time I throw it. So I go into the fight. What Morphine is, like I said before, it's a 24-hour deadener. And it has epinephrine in it. Epinephrine, if you don't know what that is, slows you down.
Yeah.
What it does is it shrinks the capillaries around the injured area to where the Novocaine doesn't get away from it, so it numbs it for longer. So instead of 2, 3, 4 hours you're numb, you'll be numb for 24 plus. So because of the epinephrine, and they shot so much in me, I'm like a third of what I should be as far as speed goes. So I'm going in there almost lethargic. And you can see in the first round, opposed to any other first round I go into, I'm like block, 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 block. I'm just moving around, just kind of lethargic, just blocking punches. So he's throwing these fast jabs because he didn't respect me. Then I hit him with the right hand, and which I should have done right off the bat, the first jab he ever threw. But I didn't because I was lethargic, and that's what happened in that fight. I couldn't fight. Sorry. The only fight, actually, in Ranzani, all of them, Vicente Saldivar, that I wish I could have fought him whole. Not saying that I could beat him, but I think if I did or didn't, it would have been the best fight of the century. Because he can't hurt me, and I know I'm going to hit him.
Yeah.
But if I can hit him effectively, I know I would hurt him or drop him a couple of times. So I think it would have been one of the best fights around, at least the best fight of the year, if not the century. So I wish that would have been one of the best fights that people could see. That's the one thing that I wish. Not, like I said, not saying I could beat him or whatever, but it would have been a great fight.
All right, then after that, you fought East Stablemate, Milt McCrory. You finished up your career, at least thought was finished, in 1983 against Johnny Bumpus. What led to your retirement?
When I fought McCrory, I was sick again. What happened was the hotel window broke in my hotel room, almost like it was set up for it to break. Or just, fate is saying, you're not going anywhere. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
So we were staying at the Book Cadillac, which was an old hotel, and the window broke. Not shattered, but the top part just fell open, freezing in my room. I get in the window and try to close it instead of running out the room, and I got sick. Manny, know his name as well as yours.
Manny Stewart?
Manuel Stewart. Manny gets the doctor in. I start on Keflex, which is a general antibiotic. It doesn't help with congestion or, stuffed head or anything. So I go into the fight dead sick. And then it was the 7th or 8th round. I said, F it. I dive into him and I go to the body. I feel him quit on me. I get butted and they stop the fight. There's no rules on headbutts in Detroit at that time. So he wins the fight. And I felt him give up on me. Then I go into, I put on weight. I get up to 168 pounds, solid. I'm waiting for a fight. Months go by, waiting for a fight. And my dad said, I got your fight. I said, oh, good. He's already told me he's going to get me a middleweight fight. And what was Bumpus? What weight was he?
He was a junior welterweight.
140.
Yeah.
He was 140, and I said, but I'm 168. And he starts yelling at me. And I said, I'm not taking the fight. I can't lose that weight, 28 pounds in 13 days. I said, I can't lose that weight. It's the only fight I can make. And starts yelling and screaming. We start arguing back and forth. I said, fine, you make the fight, I'll lose the weight. So in 13 days, the last 2 days before the fight, I can't make the weight. I'm like I get down to about 144, 143, trying to lose the extra 2 pounds, and I can't lose the 2 pounds. I strain and do everything to lose those extra 2 pounds. By weigh-in, most of the night, spitting, drying out, doing some running, I make the weight at 140. But I'm so drained, it felt like I had rubber bands on my arms. And I got tired of compromising my own self, my body and mind. So I quit right there. I said, I'm done. Tired of fighting everybody else's fight, opposed to mine. So I quit. So I quit early. It's only 10 years of pro fighting, a lot of pro fights, but I quit early, and in retrospect, it was probably the best thing I've ever done.
Yeah. And then from there, you transitioned to life after boxing. Was that an easy transition?
Not necessarily. The one asset that I've always had, I write stories.
Yeah.
And any story I've ever written, people go, holy shit, you can write. And I said, well, it's a God-giving, talent that I have. It's nothing that I went to college on. It's nothing I studied in high school. It's just I basically, in training with nothing to do, I would sit and write stories. So in the hotel room or at home or whatever, not going out, I would just sit and make up stories. And I taught myself how to create the beginning, create the characters, have a middle, you have the end, and then I round it all off by combining all three together to have an ending. And basically I taught myself how to write. And a friend of mine by the name of Roy Huggins, if that name rings a bell to you, he wrote, created, and produced there's a TV series like Rawhide. He helped with the Virginian, Alias Smith and Jones.
Roy Huggins, he was like, what do Rockford Files?
Yes, he created the Rockford Files, made James Gardner what he was, the Rockford Files, Beretta, Toma, then Beretta.
I think he wrote wasn't he on Maverick too?
He did Maverick. He created Maverick and directed Maverick. He did, The Fugitive was another big one. Run for Your Life was a big one. So he was a friend of mine. We're playing tennis at his house. He had a tennis court just built so he could play tennis. We're playing tennis. We played quite often. And I said, here's a story you should write. And he said, wow, that's a good story. Randy, I want you to write it. You write it, I'll produce it. I went, okay. So I wrote it in a very short period of time, and I never went to him for help. And I went to another producer friend of mine, and thanks for turning that down. And
that was my wife's fault, not mine.
Okay. So, wife Arthur.
I got to text her real quick and tell her that I'm still on the air.
So he was working with a guy by the name of Robert Urich, and they read my script. And I had some music already put together for it. And I met with Robert Urich, had a deal with MGM. It was right after he did Ice Pirates, and which they said is not going to make any money. And first week it made a lot of money. Didn't go much further than 3 or 4 weeks, but it did well in the box office at that time. So I meet with him in the commissary of MGM, and who was owned by Kirk Kerkorian, who was a friend of mine. So I got in and out of MGM pretty easily. And we're sitting there. I said, Randy, we love your script. Want to do it? Would you mind? And he had a hard time spitting out. He said, would you mind if I direct it? I said, it would be an honor. He said, oh, my God, all I see are dollar signs. And so we set it up. I had the money person, but the guy from Detroit, Mike, sorry, he's the first name, but Mike, it's a Jewish guy. Anyway, he bounced the checks on us, waiting to get his real money person to come in and, oh, well, I have the money guy right here. Well, the producer and Urich didn't want to put up with that. He said, we don't want to deal with this guy. What do you think? We'll give him another shot if you want to. I said, no, I'm with you guys. I don't want to deal with him. And so they said, let us take it to MGM. Let us take it to the studios. I've got a deal here, and we'll raise the money for you. We'll do it. And I said, nah, you know what? I'm just going to sit on it. I went home, and I sat on it for 20-plus years, and here I am now, getting ready to do it right now. I rewrote it, and actually I rewrote it for Oscar De La Hoya, thinking that, okay, Mexican fighter, blah, blah, blah. And I talked to the president of the, of his company, Golden Boy, and he said, nope, we're not interested in any type of films or TV or anything, basically, and almost hung up on me. And I went, oh, so I just put it aside. Rewrite it again, and I just brought it out. And first producer I went to has a big deal going with a lot of films going at the same time. He wants to produce mine because he thinks it'll make the most money. He'll be the only producer on mine, and we'll be doing a boxing movie. Now, I have a lot of other stories that a lot of people think, including my wife, that are better than the boxing story.
Yeah.
But this is the whole point of bringing up Roy Huggins. He said, when you write it in a way to where they cannot do it without you.
Yeah.
And he explained all these things of how you write and put yourself in it and do it to where they can't do it without you. So basically, I wrote this story telling the character, Johnny, in the movie, how to fight a southpaw. But watching the movie will explain to fighters and people how to fight a southpaw without fail. Will tear southpaws apart.
Yeah.
So basically, it'll be like an instruction video, watching how to fight a southpaw and learning how to fight a southpaw while watching the movie.
Yeah.
Hopefully, one of the things is that, one way is that when they do the movie, they can't do it without me. They don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
That's one. That's how I put it in to where they can't do it without me. So my producer's all behind me doing everything in the film. So I will have the trainers training the fighters, but I'll be going over exactly how to do it and what to do in it. So that's my way of writing it to where they can't do it without me. And that was all because of Roy Huggins.
Yeah, and once you get one success, then they won't want to do it without you.
Well, that's the whole point of my other stories. I have the guy that says, wow, this would make a great series. Yeah, but I'm waiting. I have a lot of stories that could be series or good features or whatever, but I'm waiting till I do this one first because it'll hopefully cement my way into the industry.
Yeah.
And I was being offered, I co-starred in Quincy, co-starred in Fame, co-starred in Blue Thunder. I was getting all these offers. I stunt coordinated. I did all these things. And I said, stop sending me stuff. Tired of it. Wilder was one of the companies. I forget the other company. I didn't sign with any agent. And I said, stop sending me stuff. I said, it's shit. I don't like any of the boxing stuff they sent me. I hate it. Couldn't stand it. I said, I could write better than this. That was another inspiration I had besides, Roy Huggins pushed me into it.
Yeah.
So I stopped accepting all scripts, and I was offered a leading feature role that was supposed to be shot in somewhere overseas, and it was with, I think it was Gaddafi threatening the commercial airliners, and my mom said, no, you're not going. So I didn't go. I always listened to my mom, and so I didn't go. And I turned that one down, and that was the last one that I accepted.
All right. Well, when this movie goes out, we need to have you back on so you can tell us about it and what it was like to, be a part of that.
Well, I would love to. Stories are my favorite thing, and it's what I do, or, what I'm going to do.
Well, I'll tell you the one thing that stood out to me when I was looking you up was 1992. You had two gunmen busted into a restaurant. You happened to be there?
Well, they were members of the Crips, and they went in. They robbed three places. They robbed Marie Callender's, 20/20 Video, and Sam Goody's. And they came into a place where actually I met with Martin Sheen. He read my script, my other script, and he said, Randy, I love this. Make me an offer. And I went, yeah. It dawned on me, like that night or the next day, I went, wow, Martin Sheen playing the father, and he has two sons. There's one son in the movie and then one bad guy. Why don't I make the bad guy one of the other sons that, he didn't know about?
Yeah.
And so I made them brothers that go against each other. And in the middle of writing this, I was just going like a bat out of hell, just writing. It was midnight at 4 and 20. There's a restaurant pie place that I knew the owners. They asked me to be one of the owners, and I turned them down, but I always went there. I liked the food. And I knew everybody that worked there, so it was midnight. Now, they let me stay as late as I want. So after closing, I just write, nobody's there, and I just write until they close, and I go home. And midnight, they didn't close, they didn't lock the doors. So it was still about, I think it was total with workers, 23 people that were still there, with the manager, waitresses, and the clientele. So the patrons that were up against one was V, that was her name, she went by V. She won the Academy Award for Batman doing Danny DeVito, the makeup.
Yeah.
She was there with her boyfriend, sitting up against a window facing Laurel Canyon. I was more towards the back. And these guys walk in, and it's called a forced takeover robbery. And what they do is they walk in with a shotgun blast. Boom. The shotgun blast knocks me to the ground because I was so engulfed into my story. I was engrossed and just going like crazy. And this idea popped in my head, and I would just go page after page after page. Boom, I get knocked to the ground just from the impact, the concussion of the shotgun, a 12-gauge going off in a small restaurant.
Yeah.
I look up, and the guy steps in front of him and fires 6 shots across the whole restaurant. And everybody said, he's saying, on the ground, everybody, on the ground, or I'm going to shoot you. I turn and I shoot for I don't know why, I shoot for the back room. And I look over my shoulder. He turns the gun on me and fires 4 shots. And the third one hits me in the left hamstring, knocks me down. I hit my shoulder, which at the time I didn't know. I threw out the clavicle on my right shoulder. I scramble around, get behind a 4x4. I didn't go out the back door, which was right there, and I look what's going on. He comes in to finish me. And it was like a V8 moment where I'm looking at the guy and I went, oh, shit, I have a gun. And what was told by me by the chief of police, I'm not going to mention any names, the chief of police goes to me, Randy, no matter what, you keep your gun on you at all times. In case an emergency comes up, you know you have it.
Yeah.
So I followed those rules. I always had it on me. And I'm sitting there or on the floor, just going, bleeding all over the floor and everything, and I'm going, oh, shit. Basically, it all flashes back. He's right. I've got a gun. And I start to pull it, and it was a Force One fanny pack, which was a new model with Velcro. I start to pull the Velcro, and he zeroes in on me. The Velcro in a room with, no noise.
Yeah.
You can hear like somebody pulling, like a shotgun. I mean, it was so loud. I went, oh, shit. And I held my breath, and I froze. And then his partner was yelling for him to help him in the main room. He goes out. I pull my gun. I go, wow, okay, gun, safety off, bullet in the chamber. I said, okay. I work my way around to the door. I pull the chair back, pull the table back, and basically looking to see what was going on around the corner. And they can't get anybody to open the cash register. They hit the busboy and fired a shot. It went, basically skinned his body, went in his shoe between his toes. Didn't hit him. So they go into the main room. Now this is when I'm really getting in situations where I can make a move. They go, everybody's money and jewelry in the middle of the floor or someone's going to die. And he said, matter of fact, somebody's going to die now. And he points the gun at the waitress that I know, and he pulls the trigger. And I said, holy Joseph, they're killing my friends. I get up. Now, in a movie, in a Western, which I love Westerns, the guy who stands up on top of the box starts shooting Indians. Okay, he's going to die. Boom, he gets shot. Stupidest thing you could ever do.
Yeah.
What do? I stand up, go after them, shooting my gun. They turn around and, how stupid is that? Instead of, taking aim, there he is, bam. No, I go up and I run after them, shooting my gun. What a way to get killed. So I go after them and go out the front door, and there's this van with no windows, and they're parked facing the street. They go around to the doors, they get in the car, I go around the van, and also one bullet literally creases my left ear, and I like a fighter, I dodge back, and the other bullet was bam, bam, that quick. One creases my right ear, the other one creases my left ear, and then my right ear. And I said, okay, I have 2 shots left. And don't ask me how I kept track. But I have 2 shots left. I either put it into the guy that shot at me, he's getting in the back seat, or put a mark on the window at the driver. He said, I'd rather put a mark and the driver and tried to stop them. So I put 2 bullets in the windshield. The bullets open up and actually shatter all over his chest. And so I thought I missed him. Come hours later, where I'm in the hospital, and they're checking me out and doing all this stuff. A lot of funny things happened in between. And yeah, here's the one thing about the writing thing that came into play. I said, I'm fine. I get in an argument with the cop. He said, you mean you shot at them? I said, yeah, they were going to kill my friend. So we got an argument back and forth. He's telling me what an idiot I was. I told him to F off and get out of my face and get the F out of here. And he didn't know what to do after I told him to where he can shove it. And so go to the hospital. I'm fine. The paramedics checked me out there. My blood pressure is normal. My heartbeats was I think it was 66, 67, somewhere right around there. So my pulse was normal. Go to the hospital. They checked me out. I'm fine. The bullet that went in my leg ricocheted out. So I was just limping for about a month, and that was it. So wasn't really hurt. So, but the next day I said, yeah, I'm fine. I 2 days later, I go to 420 to do my writing again. I walk in, get at my pad, because then it was a pad and paper, and I look down at the script I was working on for Martin Sheen, and it was a blank. Complete blank. I couldn't remember or think of anything to write. That's never happened to me. And I went, oh, shit, I guess I was more affected than I thought. So things do have a way of, taking effect on people, whether it's physically or mentally. And mentally, I didn't get back to my writing. It was about 3 weeks before I got my chutzpah back and I can get back to my writing. Well, but that's what happened in the story. They went to jail for 16 years. And I had a hit put out on me by the Crips. And my police friends, SWAT, Metro, LAPD, and sheriffs, all my friends, all got together when I was getting an award. And they had every aisle blocked. The entrance, the back doors, the aisles, everything was, all my friends were there. There was, I would say, no less than 25 cops there. And I didn't really know how many cops were there until a friend of mine, a chiropractor, Dan Monaco, told me, said, Randy, there was cops all over the place. There was a police helicopter above, blah, blah, blah. So the guys at the front door saw 2 guys walk in. They kept an eye on them. They walked in and saw all the artillery. All my friends were armed to the teeth. And they said, well, forget this. They turned around and walked out. And then after that, chief of police called me and said, you know what, the hit's been lifted, and you should be okay. So
I'll tell you,
that's
Randy,
what happened in the shooting.
I think you ought to just write the story of your life. I think it would make a hell of a movie.
Well, I've been offered, and I've turned them down. I've had 4 legitimate offers, and I just rather make up the stories and make it entertaining and, go on my way.
Well, it was great to have you on the show today. I wish you the best of luck with your movie. And like I said, we'd love to have you come back when you get that movie made.
Well, it's the only reason to come back.
Oh,
So,
it could be just because you like talking to me, Randy.
Well, I do. And it was, it's a great chat, but, people can only take that story once.
Yeah, but like I said, it was an absolute honor. I watched you when I was younger. Loved to watch you fight. And I know you brought up, when I first brought up you being on, that you didn't think that you thought Legends was a stretch. But I think if anybody heard that story, it's not that much of a stretch, especially when you look at your entire life as a totality.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, there was a lot that went into making the trip to the AAU. There was a lot more involved when I fought Ray Leonard, and I wasn't even in his weight category. But what was meant to be was meant to be. And one thing I didn't mention is that one of the best compliments I ever got was from Manuel Stewart, and he was training the big black heavyweight champion from England. Starts with an L. Can't remember his name.
Oh, Lennox
He's
Lewis.
training him. Lennox Lewis.
Yeah.
Thank you. The L gave it to you. So I'm just horrible with names. So we're in Big Bear, and like I said, I don't like training fighters. I like showing them things, how to beat people. So I was training this heavyweight that was training with Lennox Lewis, and Manuel loved talking to me, and he said, I have to tell you that as looking pro or amateur or whatever, you're probably one of the best all-time amateurs in the history of boxing. And so Manuel Stewart said that to me, then goes and passes away. So what good does it do me? Nothing. It didn't do anything.
You know what I mean?
Well,
there's not many people he paid a compliment like that to, Randy. So.
No, I like Manuel Stewart very much, and he knew how to manage a fighter to stairway him into a world title.
Yeah.
And winning the title.
Yeah, and he knew how to get the best out of fighters. I mean, if you look at Vladimir Klitschko, he was considered a lost cause around 99 or 2000. 10 years later, he was making a run where he's the heavyweight champion for a decade.
Yeah, and it's all management. It's all how he staggers them of fighting this guy, not fighting that guy, and fighting this guy. And that's how management goes. Jackie Kalin is very good at doing that. You can't take the wrong fights, and especially at the wrong time.
Yeah. But, all right, Randy, I appreciate you sitting in with us today. Would love to have you back anytime, but once again, I want to thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike. I appreciate it.
All right, guys.
You have a great day.
Thank you, Randy. You too, guys. That was Randy Shields, former welterweight title contender. I want to remind you guys that tonight we will have our Sweet 16 preview show with Steve Risley, former Indiana Hoosier, played on the 1981 National Championship team. You can check us out at 10 o'clock Eastern there. You can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher. Wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Randy Shields, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.